comes in a package like this, and I got this shade Light 3 Gobi. So hopefully it's the right one, because you know, at the stores now you can't do the testers. This is what it looks like, and it comes in a pretty hefty glass jar. So it's 1 ounce of foundation, and I think, yeah, it does have a top, because the other Nars foundations that I've tried don't have a pump. So to start with applying a full pump to my kabuki brush, I start by stippling it onto my skin. So I start with this half of my face and bring it down to my neck. I'm gonna go ahead and start buffing it out, circular motions. Okay, so I worked this side into my neck and my jawline, all over my face. I've definitely, since I've been going out in the sun, gotten a little tanner since I bought this foundation. As you can see, it's light, but I'm gonna make it work just to see how the formula is. So I'm gonna go do the other side. This is definitely a buildable foundation too, because I did apply a full pump just to one side, but I feel like it's so lightweight I could go back over if I wanted more coverage. So we're just gonna do this side, the same thing, just stipple it on. Okay, so fresh tube of concealer. It looks like this, and then I'm just gonna apply it underneath my eyes like I usually do. And I am glad that I got a little bit of a darker concealer. It's not too dark, but I feel like it would be way too light. So this is what the skin is gonna look like after you apply the foundation and concealer and let it sit for a few minutes. So it claims to be a natural but radiant full coverage foundation that's buildable, which I think is really true, because I can still see that glow coming through the skin, almost like you have a BB cream on. And this is giving me full coverage. It covered all of the dark spots and everything, but it's letting that kind of like BB cream type effect come through, which is kind of hard to find in a natural full coverage foundation. Okay, so I am finished with the rest of my makeup, and when I am trying out a new BB cream or foundation, I always set the formula and concealer with just a light layer of pressed powder. I don't use the milled powder or the loose powder at all. I usually use that in like my everyday routine, but just to see how the formula is, I just do a light layer of powder, bronzer, blush, you highlight, the normal thing, but for the face itself, I don't set it really heavily with any powder. And the reason I do that is because I do really want to see how the formulation of the foundation is going to hold up throughout the day. That being said, for the wear test, I always do 5 hours. So from now to 5 hours, I will be back to update you guys. Okay, so right now I'm outside, and I just wanted to show you what it would look like if you were in full natural lighting. So it's been a little while, and it is getting a little bit oily, and I noticed around where I did have dark spots around here, it's starting to show through a little bit, but the skin texture and just finish of it is still looking very natural, but it's giving me coverage. Just the only thing I could say is that it is getting a tiny bit oily around the nose, but the skin itself still looks pretty nice. But around my nose, it is getting pretty oily. And I did notice, because I took a picture outside, that the reflection of this, since it's such a luminous, I feel like, type of foundation, it will show up in pictures if you're not setting it with a lot of powder. So I'll insert a picture to show you what I'm talking about. Mention too, with a natural full coverage foundation, the skin is going to look really nice throughout the day. It's not going to look like it needs to get washed or you need to cleanse your skin. The foundation is almost going to make the skin look more beautiful the longer you wear it. So even though I am getting a little bit more oily in my T-zone and around my nose, I do think the healthiness look of the skin still looks really good for this foundation. Okay, so I just wanted to give an update now. It's been about 3 to 4 hours, and I've been running around with this foundation on all day, and I've had a mask on too, so it's a little bit different with the mask on. But as you can see, it's getting quite oily throughout the day. So if you do have oily skin, I don't know if this is going to be the foundation for you. I personally like the oily look because I have dry skin, and the powder is really easy to correct. But just using it, hold on, let me see, the lighting's kind of weird. Just using it with no powder whatsoever, or just a really light layer, even if you have dry skin, the oils are gonna show through. Like, look at that, oily. Well, I personally don't mind getting oily because I feel like since I have dry skin, I can correct it really quick with a powder. But if that is your concern for a foundation, oh, this one would not be for you. Like, look at that. Even compared to some BB creams, whoa, this oil, I don't know. The end of the 5-hour wear test. Now it is the end of the day and the sun is setting, but as you could tell, the foundation was getting a little oily, and especially in the last clip when the sun was super bright. I feel like it gets to the initial point of where it does get oily, but then it kind of stops. So right now, the oil levelness from when I showed in the last clip hasn't really changed. I thought it was just gonna get more oily and more greasy looking, but it kind of just does its thing, gets oily after a few hours. Then I feel like it stops and settles more to the skin. Personally, to me though, even though it's oily, I feel like it is a very natural, beautiful skin finish, because some foundations, they get greasy looking and oily and tacky looking, but they move around the foundation, so the cheek and the contour and all of your powders, it's just all blotchy and patchy by the end of the day. Highlight and my cheeks, my blush didn't really, I mean, it faded a little bit, but it's not moved around. It doesn't look patchy or gray or anything like that. Even though in the T-zone it did get much more oily than when I first put it on, I don't really mind that because I feel like the skin finish of this is so beautiful, and even throughout the day, the full wear test, the skin still looks really nice and luminous. So I do really like this. Again, I didn't set it with much powder at all, just a thin layer. So I feel like even though this is a wear test and first impression, I am going to try this out for you guys one more day tomorrow and set it with a loose mattifying powder just to see, just because I feel like the formulation of this foundation is so beautiful on the skin. I don't think it's fair to say, oh, this is not a good foundation, it's not good for oily skin. Okay, so it is the next day and I did my makeup exactly the same with the foundation, and the only difference was I did set the concealer and foundation with my Charlotte Tilbury loose powder. It's kind of a translucent light powder. And I did my whole face with the Nars foundation just like I did yesterday, and also put the concealer on as well. So today's test is going to be the 5-hour wear test using this foundation with the powder. Like I said yesterday, I don't think I gave it a fair shot, because in reality, when I do my makeup, I am going to set my foundation no matter what, because you do all this hard work blending your foundation and concealer in. Of course you're going to set it with a powder. Also too, the reason I'm doing a second wear test is if the foundation was just to break up, get oily, smear around by the end of the day, I would just stay away from it. I'd be like, the formula is not good. But I do think that the formulation of this foundation is very nice, just because the skin did not get blotchy. Even though it got oily and very dewy by the end of the day, the foundation did not break up at all, and the skin itself still looked very radiant and nice. So that's why I'm just going to do the second wear test with the powder on. So this is what the skin is looking like when you set it with a powder. With that being said, I will update you guys throughout the day, and I will be back in the total 5 hours to show you the end result. Okay, so it's been a few hours now, and I wanted to show you guys, just like yesterday, what it would look like in the natural lighting after it settled for a little while. I do love how the skin is looking. I do think it's a lot more matte setting it with the powder, and then the foundation itself is lasting a lot better. So around my nose, it is still getting a little oily. You could see that dew coming through, but I feel like overall, like the T-zone is not as shiny as it was yesterday. And the way it's settling onto the skin with the combination of a loose powder, I feel like is making it last and look a little bit more full coverage. And in the direct sunlight, I really like how it's making the skin look. It's like looking like your skin but better type foundation. And what I like too, that I've noticed using the Nars contour bronzer and blush, it lasts a long time on top of this foundation. I could still tell when I use the Orgasm blush on top of other foundations, it seems to rub off more quickly. The Nars powders formulated for the foundation, I feel like last even longer on the skin. So I wanted to just give you the final update. So it's been 5 hours since I applied the foundation this morning for the second wear test, and this is what the skin is looking like. So it did get oily. You could see on my cheeks and my nose. So my final conclusion for this is even if you set it with a loose powder, it's still going to look pretty oily. I don't think it looks as shiny as it did yesterday. The powder helped control that, but it definitely gives you that dewy glow. Radiant long wearing foundation. I do think all of those categories are true, because even though it does look a little shiny and very dewy by the end of the day, the foundation, if you could tell on camera, it's like not moved around, it's not smeared. I even ate, my lipstick rubbed off, but it still stayed in place. You can even still see my blush and highlight, which is a good sign of a good quality foundation. So I would say this is a really good dry skin everyday foundation. You would have to touch it up with powder a lot if you were to photograph with it. So it's probably not the best for photographs, but for just like a beautiful skin finish for a natural everyday look, this is definitely a really great foundation. I am going to put it in my rotation because I do like how it makes the skin look. But if I knew there was a place that I was going to take a lot of pictures, the shine and the flashback of it would be just like too much. But for an everyday foundation, it's pretty good. So as far as the 16-hour claim, I don't think that you should keep foundation on your face for 16 hours. It's just like a long time. But if you were to use it for a long period of time, I don't think it would budge as much as some natural or dewy foundations, just because the foundation quality itself stays put. But yeah, so I hope you found this review helpful. That was my full in-depth review on the Nars Radiant Foundation. Also, let me know if you guys have tried out this foundation or any Nars foundations and what you guys think about it. I'd really like to know. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications for new videos, and I will see you in my next one. Thanks for watching.